which is the day in the celebration of the sort of African American holiday called Kwanzaa, the day Imani, right, the day of faith. But since they didn't have any organized religious experience, they would gather on that day, a day of reflection. What is the state and the condition of African Americans? And in this celebration, subhanAllah, man, they invited me to come. And they, in this gathering in Washington, with so many universities and academics from the Black consciousness movement, we would sit and discuss. And I would, I'm not discussing, I'm listening. One of the men there who I knew was a leader in their movement, he said, and by the way, we were in the home of a sister, her name is Zahra, which we would call now Zahra. Zahra had hosted the event. She was Muslim, but connected in that Pan-Africanist thing, because back then, all progressive people, if you were some kind of progressive social movement, we were all like in the same boat. So we were at Sister Zahra's house, and one of the guys in the thing, he said, one of our challenges in building our community movement is we need a codified code of conduct. Because we have a lot of baggage left over from slavery and from living in oppression in America and Jim Crow, segregation. We need really something that says this is how men should function. This is how women should function. This is how children should function. This is how leaders should function. This is how the program ought to go. He said the Muslims have something which is codified already. They call it hadith. He said we need something like hadith. He said our only challenge is that maybe some of the volumes of this hadith, there are over 400,000 hadith about every aspect of life. It would, for us to develop something like this would be a tremendous effort. But we need something like that. Well, it didn't take me long to figure out. There are two choices. Either we can reinvent the wheel, or just go get us a volume of hadith and start looking and saying, I already believe in Allah, that there's only one God. I've met many Muslims, I'm clear. Now, the phenomenon of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is clear, because this guy has said, what we need is something like the Prophet Muhammad organized alayhi salam for his people. And I was, as a person, I'm a movement thinking person. So my own personal thing is working for me. I don't eat pork, I don't drink alcohol, whatever is working for me personally. I'm just making good, sensible judgments, but I don't really have a particular religion. One night, subhanAllah. One night I'm walking home, and I live near the university, but in a rough neighborhood. And we used to have in those days what they call winos. They don't call them winos today. They're homeless people, and they have other names for them, right? But they were probably winos and homeless, but and maybe not. Maybe they were just but they lived a lot in the street. And there were two of them at the corner. It was the corner of Euclid and 14th Street Northwest.
In Brooklyn?
No, in Washington.
Ah, okay.
And I'm a student at the university, so I'm living near campus, and modest quarters, living the life of the scholar. Subhanallah. One of the winos sees me coming to the corner, and he has a bottle of some kind of alcohol in a bag, because it's illegal to drink it outside of the bag. But if you have it inside of the bag, police they let you go. So these two winos are on the corner, and the one wino says to the other guy, "Don't you see the brother coming?" Right? And so he put the wine bottle behind him. Then he says to the other guy, he said, I'm gonna ask the brother. He said, "Brother, can I ask you a question, brother?" I said, "Sure." He said, "How many gods are there, brother?" I said, "Well, brother, there's only one God." He said, "See, that's a Muslim, brother." I said, He said, brother, so you believe in the Quran, don't you? The book of Allah? I said, well, sure. I mean, it's just it's a scripture from Allah, from God. He said, see, brother, that's a Muslim, brother. He said, you believe in Muhammad, don't you, brother? I said, well, the prophet, yeah, well, of course. He said, see, brother, that's a Muslim. He said, brother, you don't eat that pork, do you, brother? I was like, no thinking person would eat pork. He said, that's a Muslim, brother. He said, brother, you don't smoke that stuff. I said, no. He said, see, Muslim. He said, brother, you respect our women, don't you, brother? I said, well, yes, brother, our women should be respected and protected. He said, that's a Muslim, that's what I'm talking about, brother. Assalamu alaikum. I said, wa alaikum salam. I was there, I said, well, brother, I'm not a Muslim, brother. He said, oh, that's all right, brother. That's all right, brother. Assalamu alaikum. I was like, wa alaikum salam. And I walked away and I was like, maybe I am Muslim. I mean, when I'm around the Muslims, and it's time to make salat, I know how to make salat. Because, I'm a worldly person. You know what I mean? I'm read widely. I know about the history of Africa. I know the history of Asia. I know some of the history of Islam. Why? Because in 1977, they aired on television Roots the story of the family of Alex Haley, who also wrote the autobiography of Malcolm X. This man goes back, traces his family background back to Africa, and shows that his relative Kunta Kinte was a Muslim. So now for me, I have my African identity, and it's intertwined with my Muslim identity. And so for me, and I watched the series of Roots, acquired the book Roots, began to study about the life of Kunta Kinte and his family, how Islam was systematically removed from them. Then I can hear the words of Malcolm saying that we were Muslim back in Africa before some enemy took us and brought us to this country and made us slaves. So alhamdulillah, for me, that Malcolm, Alex Haley, Roots experience, meeting the other people, said, you know what, subhanallah, without me knowing it, I've become a Muslim.
MashaAllah.
And alhamdulillah, from there, it was just a question of now, am I willing to accept the fact that I am Muslim? That took a little while.
Right.
But ultimately, the clincher that, how can I help my people? I mean, I can come with my own kind of homespun thing, but really, my people need a system. Americans need a system if we're going to move forward. Malcolm said that Elijah Muhammad told him that the only thing that can save our people is Islam. He said now, that it could help the white man, but the white man won't accept Islam. That's what he said. I said, but the only thing that can save us is getting ourselves in line with this thing, Islam. And so for me, accepting Islam wasn't just to accept Islam for me personally. It was also to accept a system that could help myself, my family, my friends, my neighbors, my community, whether they accepted Islam or not, to build the kind of society and order that all of us would be benefited. And so subhanAllah, my decision to accept Islam was more than personal.
Right.
I had already, individually, I'd already come to the realization of Islam. But what about my society? Now, I had no intentions of actually becoming, in my mind anyway, an activist, an imam, or whatever. Just that whatever I would convey to my people had to be a system.
Right. Now, how did it come that you actually took Shahada, and how did you decide on the name Abdul Malik Johari?